at a certain point you have to get comfortable learning publicly, because you're always just trying to figure out how to do the thing, and everyone's watching and everyone's judging, and you have to just be like, this is not a final product kind of thing. This is a long conversation of my growth that people are watching.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Grace Glowicki is an actor. She sat down with me on the Upper West Side of Manhattan to talk about the work.
Do you have a typical way you begin?
Honestly, not really. It's more like, well, like I'll take a role if I just have like a gut reaction to it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, this is cool. So for like Mary's movie Booger, it was just the title, Booger. I was like, I like body fluids. I think they're funny. Like, I like seeing them on I like them in cinema. So I thought, oh my God, a movie called Booger. I don't care what's inside of this document. Like, I'm in. So it's quite like instinctual, like how I like attached to something. And then when it comes to like working on it, I feel like, you know, like probably so many people you've talked to, like perpetually trying to figure out my process, tried like so many different things, tried Meisner for a while, tried like actions, tried like this coach, that coach, no coach, like just all kinds of different things. And now I have a role, I'm playing a bounty hunter with mommy issues next week.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and so with that actually, I started to realize I was having some like, I was really putting the director as a authority figure, and I'm like kind of sensitive with authority figures. So I thought, oh man, I feel like I'm having like a block when it comes to working with directors if they're not a certain type of director. Like Mary, for instance, with Booger was like super encouraging, like very like down for any of my instincts, like very supportive. And I like fly, I'm super instinctual, like it's no problem. But then if I have a director that's got more of a rigid vision or shuts more of my ideas down, I like struggle to work. So this, I kind of was like clocking, oh man, I think I have an issue here that I want to work through. So for this movie, my friend is an acting coach. He's also an actor. And he also just became a therapist. So I approached him and I said, hey, I think I'm having this like kind of block in my work that's connected to like Grace. Like it's not connected to the role. It's not connected to the director. It's like I'm projecting some of my bullshit onto the situation and struggling to do my best work. So with him, we're kind of like doing this weird hippy-dippy hybrid of like building a character while trying to address the different ways in which Grace gets in the way of like being open enough to just let my instincts write the character. Yeah. For me, like I'm very physical, so like I start by like thinking about the like general psychology of the character. So like this character, she was abandoned at birth, and then she was conned later in life by someone who said she was their mom, stole all of her money, and she's really like become hardened, like double abandoned and like super hardened. So like I start by being like, okay, her heart center, like her heart is really collapsed. So then I get on my feet and I kind of feel like, what would it be like with my posture to protect my heart center? And then I'm like, okay, but she's trying to be tough. So then I like kind of like get my arms up and kind of explore what that posture would be like if I was also trying to keep people away from my heart center. And then also like spreading my feet to be like, I'm a tough guy, you know? And then I kind of just like get up and I talk to myself. It's better if there's a coach or a friend there with me so I can kind of free associate and bounce. Yeah. It's helpful for me to get out of my head and on my feet. Yeah. But I'd say like the building of it feels really like psychology and movement coming together until I feel like I like hook onto something, and then it's kind of blackout. Yeah. It's like, okay, like that's what it is. Yeah. Like I feel it in my bones. I can see it in my head. Yeah. And then I just sort of use these little postural things I've found as keys to kind of like click into them. But it's hard. It's like, so I find the building a character thing actually quite easy. I'm quite instinctual. I have good impulses. The harder thing I find is like how to deal with redirects or how to deal with environments that are stressful, or if a director doesn't like any of your impulses.
Right.
That shit I'm trying to work on, of like how to like author the character, take a direction from somebody, and like really collaborate with them, but not abandon your instincts.
Yes.
That I find is like the work I'm trying to figure out now, and it's definitely my own bullshit that's in the way.
Yeah, but isn't it? It's got to be hard because you want to be fully creative and build yourself, and if somebody is giving you something that's counter to that, it's like interrupting this building that's happening, right? I mean, it's this weird thing.
That's what I was saying I had a session with this guy yesterday. I was saying to that, like, I had like found this voice and I was getting so connected to this voice, and I said, if the director tells me he doesn't like the voice, I feel like I'm losing hold of the whole character.
Yeah.
And he's like, Grace, what you gotta do is like, you have this character, it like exists in this like bowl inside of you. And when the director says, actually just use your regular voice, instead of having that be something where I panic and abandon all of my instincts and everything I've built with the character, instead I just take that direction, I pop it in the bowl, so to speak, and I let what if the character did just have my regular voice?
Yeah.
What would happen then? And like, don't abandon the whole ship.
Yeah.
Instead, try to just keep adding. Each new direction is adding on, not taking away.
Yes.
And you have to have a looser hold, he said, like have a looser hold on the character so that it can grow and evolve in collaboration with the director, which is why you have to be quite careful who you work with. I think, and what roles you take.
Yes.
Because I find it all quite spiritual.
Yes.
For sure. So I feel protective.
Yeah.
Of it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm kind of trying to figure out.
Well, that's really interesting, because just rewiring your mind to think that it's not about taking something away. It's just adding.
It's just adding.
Because it's like a Jenga. Otherwise, it's like a Jenga. What is that thing called? Jenga?
Like a house of cards.
Yeah, the house of cards. You pull one thing and then you feel like that's going to pick the whole. No.
Exactly.
It's so good. That's so good. You can actually apply this to life too, though, right? Can't you?
for sure. Like that's what
relationships
I love about
and just.
Yeah, that's why I'm enjoying kind of working with like a therapist coach hybrid, because it is like my life and my approach to everything is almost in completely. That's what I love about acting, is it's like my way of understanding myself and life.
Yes.
Truly, it feels to be it's the same lessons.
Yes.
And the same growth.
Yes.
So it's super interconnected.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you're the instrument, you know what I mean?
Right, exactly. What made you want to start to do this at all? Like what was going on in your life that brought you to this kind of work?
I think it's hard to know exactly, but I think I just felt there was like a void in some way, and now looking back on it, I think I just wasn't as expressive as a younger person for whatever reason as I like needed to be or wanted to be. So there was this kind of like desire to express, and then when I was like in my 20s in university, I auditioned for a play and like was doing the play and was like, oh my God, like this feels like I feel so present. Like the presence of the moments while performing was, I think, something I was just starved for as a person. And I think for me, it has something to do with expression. Yeah, but still a mystery. You know, I'm a middle child. That probably has something to do with it, of like wanting some attention. Like, you know, the ego is hard to separate from how you find yourself in this line of work, I think, as well.
Sure. And did you go to school for it?
No, so I'm like more or less untrained. Like I've done a few Meisner classes, just like independently, and then now kind of find myself to being curious about craft, because I was kind of just like freewheeling it.
But you were making it work though for yourself.
Yeah.
And you ever like think, maybe I shouldn't do that because I don't want to mess with this? And especially if it's spiritual, right?
Yeah.
I mean, are you ever scared of like, is somebody going to come in and give me some, quote unquote craft that's going to mess with this?
Well, I've become really sensitive with who I allow in that regard. So like this current person I'm working with, like he's a peer. I've acted with him, so I don't feel a power dynamic in the relationship. That's really important for me when I'm working with someone, because I don't ever want to feel like someone is breaking me down and then remaking me into like their image. And I hear that happens a lot in theater school and stuff. So I feel quite lucky that I was able to avoid, you know, what for some is a experience of being taken away from your instincts. But I'm not scared that me trying to learn about craft or myself is going to take anything away. I don't think it doesn't feel to threaten like whatever instincts I have. It's like only kind of finding ways to actually just free them more.
Yes. So you're aware enough of yourself and what is working within yourself to not let that happen anyway.
Kind of, yeah. Like I can tell when I'm embodied and when I'm not.
Yeah.
And I thank God for that. Like I really have, I think, and I've edited myself in a couple movies too. So like I've really had to look at myself as a performer for many hours.
Right.
And I can tell and I can trust when I'm in and I can trust when I'm out. So because I have that compass, I think it's, you know, pretty protected.
And tell me, so you just mentioned editing yourself and having to watch. So were you always looking to make films and put yourself in films? Or were those two pursuits separate and it just happened to come together to you where you're putting yourself in?
They were like, I think actually like I'm a director because I need to perform, because I need to express myself as a performer. Like the kinds of roles that I tend to want to do myself are like very like large characters, and it's pretty hard. Like that's why I loved working with Mary, because she had me doing some like bigger challenging stuff like coughing up hairballs and doing cat behavior. Like that's my sweet spot. But I think like at a certain point I just realized like I can't expect people to give me these opportunities. And being on film sets, I was truly enamored with the filmmaking process and just thought everyone behind the camera was like the actual cool ones. And so I think I was like, both genuinely interested, but I think born out of this desire to not be so, to not fall into a trap of feeling like I needed other people to do something.
And so it wasn't just about writing. Right? It was about directing. Did you feel like you could do that simply because of your experience in front of the camera, or were you always knowing that's something you can do?
I think I just had some like naive confidence as like a 20-something.
It's important.
Like I think my roommate had a camera, so we were just kind of like dicking around making comedy videos, learning to edit. So it kind of happened organically, just like from this desire to like make funny things with each other, for each other, kind of like evolved out of that place. So kind of by accident, like I feel really lucky I happened to somehow figure all of this out, because I love it both a lot. But there's no real like plan. It just feels like it kind of happened.
I mean, but this is what everyone really should be doing, even if it's somebody that's not quite like you, that feels the need to do a certain type of role that isn't being offered to them. Every actor should be finding a way to do this, right? Putting themselves in things. And in this time when it's easier to do that. You know, I mean, forget about how professional it is or whatever. Like you need to get ahead somehow or show what you can do, right?
Yeah, because I think like for me at least, I think it would have bottled up and caused me to resent things, you know. And like I think that's like when you start to die as an artist, when resentment starts to take over, or blame, or any of these things, you know. So I thought, okay, like accountability, agency, like where's that for me? And like,
was Tito your first feature film? And that got a lot of great attention, didn't it?
It like found its weird little audience.
And so that also at the same time leads to people seeing you as an actor. So were you getting offers to be in things from that?
So that's another great way that like directing myself in some things has really helped as an actor, is it helps me, I think, kind of be a little in control of my typecast. And so I noticed even like with Mary, I I think a part of why she cast me was because she had seen Tito. So like you're kind of showing directors what you want to do a little bit. So I think it really,
and it works.
Helps. Yeah. I like, I'm the next role I'm playing is a female bounty hunter with mommy issues. Like it's like, that's exactly the kind of shit that I want. A woman who turns into a cat. Like it's perfect.
Yeah.
So I do attribute some of those opportunities coming from me being like, hey, this is what I like.
Yeah. That's what's beneficial. It's not just about getting exposure. It's getting the proper kind of exposure. Like you putting yourself in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah,
and
for me.
showing people your sweet spot. It's not just like a spot that you can do. It's what you want to do.
Exactly.
And therefore, that's that energy of you being able to do what you want to do is attractive.
Totally.
When you were in the editing room, seeing yourself, how did that change you when you were on set just as an actor? Because you were imagining there is going to be an editing room that you're not going to be in.
Yeah, I think it taught me a lot actually, because I think I'm really comfortable with letting go of the control in other people's movies. Like I really am like, when directors even send me like their cuts and ask for my notes. Some of my friends that are actors, like if that happens, they're like they need the director to take their notes. It like really has a power over them. But I think because I have that control in my own editing room, I really respect that like that's their editing room and I can't control it. What I can control is like on set, that's my job, that's my place. But like that's where my control stops. Yeah. And I think I'm really comfortable with it, and I've become comfortable watching movies that I'm in that I don't love my performance in. I'm comfortable reading reviews where people don't like my performance. I think just because I've been fortunate enough to have the different sides of these experiences, but also have it happen enough times. I do feel I've got the thick skin finally. Yeah. In that way. Yeah. In other ways I don't, but in this way I think I do.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. And that's so important to have that skin that thick, isn't it?
I think it's really hard, man. Yeah. Like I think you kind of have to, or you just wouldn't do it.
Right.
Yeah. If you're not, I always say like, I was talking to my husband about this because he's an actor too. It's like at a certain point you have to get comfortable learning publicly. Mm-hmm. Like, because you're always just trying to figure out how to do the thing and everyone's watching and everyone's judging. Right. And you have to just be like, this is not a final product kind of thing. This is a long conversation of my growth that people are watching. Yes. Like that's what this situation is when you like go to a screening of your work from 2 years ago, you know? Yeah.
And also with that kind of attitude, it allows you to go deeper in the moment, I think, because you're not worrying about perception so much. You're saying like, this is an exploration here. I'm learning, yeah. And you're able to push it a little farther, I think, because
then you can try and fail. You're not afraid of failing.
You're not afraid to fail, yeah. Yeah. And it's so important, because if you weren't, then there'd always be this little bit of you holding back.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're trying to be good, that's the death, I think. Yeah. Like, if you're trying to avoid being bad or trying to be good, it's like that's the death. Yes. For me, at least. Like, that's where I'm trying to stay away from.
Yes. When you get, like, the Booger script, I mean, obviously you must have been upset that there was no boogers in it.
A little upset. But I got so much puke.
You got a lot of hair.
A lot of spit. So I was like, okay.
So how did you know that Mary was going to be the kind of director that was going to be good for you, or did you not?
I could kind of just feel it with Mary. Like she just has like a great vibe. And she has like, I love it when a director like has a little like giggle when you connect and you do something that they think is funny and you
Yeah.
hear that little giggle,
Yeah.
then it just becomes a thing where I just chase the director's giggle. And it's like, that's like the sort of like the spine of our intimacy, and it's
Yeah.
very like sacred and special. And right away, talking to Mary, there was that little thing with her where I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you're great. Like, she's just so fun
That's so
and
cool.
weird and funny and
Yeah.
a good person.
Yeah.
And like, and she saw me as the actor I was trying to be. And that I can usually pick up on pretty fast. And I was like, okay, we're good. Like, this is going to be, you know, we're going to be able to like really work together. But I'm trying to learn to do that even when a director isn't like
and
that.
it's so hard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate that this is important, but it is.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like I was just talking to an actor about if it's not there, should the director try to artificially create this so that you would feel, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
if
it's
I
hard to
directed
say.
you and I didn't have that giggle, like, and you weren't really feeling it from me.
Then you're just kind of manipulating me.
Yeah. I mean, but what if I did it successfully without you knowing?
I think as a director, I wouldn't want to operate from that place.
Yeah.
Because then you're too cheapening your instincts.
That's right.
In a way, to try.
But what's the alternative? The alternative is that you're just existing in this. Can you at least try to manipulate it? I mean, we don't got much other choice.
Well, maybe that's the work. It feels like that's the only choice, but I'm sure there is another.
It's got to be some other, like
another way. Yeah.
And it may come about, right? Once you get to know each other, I don't know. Like, but I feel like directors should be pursuing this, and not in an artificial way that I just said about manipulation, but in a way just like trying to actually get to know a person and trying to feel what they need in terms of trust.
Yeah.
And being able to deliver that.
Yeah, I think the tricky thing is when it becomes codependent, though.
Oh,
like if it's like a director is too much trying to give you what they think you need, that can become suffocating in its own way.
Yeah.
You know, like I think it might be like what I'm trying on my side of it as an actor, if I'm working with a director that I don't quite click with or I feel isn't as supportive as my ideal director would be, I feel like it's more like you have to be that director for yourself and be comfortable, you know, collaborating with someone that isn't exactly perfect for you. In the same way, maybe as a director, you know, I've worked with some actors where I feel like, oh man, like they're not as easy to work with as some other actors. And like, why is that? And maybe it's just like being comfortable with that. And like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
that's probably the best thing to do, because at least there won't be that tension. Yeah. Of trying and failing and
totally.
And
like
then the suffocation comes in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you realize that it's going to be easy with Mary, and then you realize that you're in this script that performing things that that are in your wheelhouse or that you like to do. But there's this other thing that's so fascinating about this movie that I think is really special. This grief aspect. How did you approach that? Was that something that you relished, the idea of getting in the weeds on? Or was it like, oh, I don't know how to...
That was harder. Like I'm like the like puking, the hairballs, the like boogers, like that stuff, pretending to be a cat, that's like my comfort zone. Yeah. But like the crying in the bathroom because your friend just died, that's my nightmare scene. Yeah. Like that stuff I find very difficult. Again, one of my blocks. Like I feel extra vulnerable. I feel more prone to judgment by a director or by a critic or by the audience, whatever. So it's like harder for me to go there because it feels so much more vulnerable. Yeah. And that scares me more. So that shit, like probably avoided in my prep. And then I think on the day Marsha DeBonis was so sweet. And I told her like, look, I'm so scared about this scene, I just feel like I can't cry. The script says I have to cry. So I kind of like leaned on her for support a bit, and she was so sweet. She's like, honey, don't worry about it. Like, I'm gonna be in that bathroom with you. Like, we're gonna make sure you get there. Like, we got the tear stick. Like,
Yeah.
so I have to learn to do it for myself. But in this instance, I kind of like leaned on my friend and just admitted how scared I was of having to go do that scene.
Yeah.
And it worked out. The like friendship got me through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that shit, I have to figure that stuff out. I'm not good at that stuff.
And it's at least it's good to know that. Use whatever you have to use.
Yeah, I'm pro
get
tear
through.
stick.
Yeah.
I tear sticked all through the last movie too.
I mean, geez.
You gotta do it because it takes away the mental block of like, what if I don't?
Yeah.
And then sometimes just freeing yourself.
That's worth it enough.
It can release it. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
I mean, anyone who's being precious in this day and age about that kind of stuff is it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, some people are probably purists about it.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But those people happen to be people where it just comes easy, and that's just chemicals.
Yeah. I'm jealous. the criers that can just like release tears like on demand. I'm like, oh, that would be so awesome.
I know.
What a great tool that would be.
Let's hope nothing happens in your life where that happens easier for you.
I know, right?
When I see an independent movie like this, some things I don't know how they're done. Like, I don't know how the cat bit you.
So it actually bit Mary. So it
was a real bite?
It was a real bite on Mary.
Oh my God, because I was like,
Mary's
this
hand.
looks real.
Yeah, we like tried to do it on my hand, and it just like wasn't quite working. So I think they went and had to reshoot it. And because Mary's gets bit by her cat all the time at home, it was like the only
It's
way
a
to go.
hand.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. I was like, how is... I looked back, I was like, is this a fake cat head?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, cats, I guess. Difficult to work with, turns out.
Yeah. My other pet peeve is the way people react to actual things like that. The way you react to that bite. Like, I want to put that in a freezer and be able to show that to people. Like, this is the proper way you react to a freaky thing like this. It sets you up for the rest of the movie. If you didn't do that, it'd be like everything else would be like kind of like, I don't know, this is not okay.
I'm glad it worked for you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it had to, because that is the catalyst for everything.
Literally.
And if you're questioning it, as an audience, that it even happened,
totally,
then to suspend your disbelief about the craziness that's about to come.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if you think about something like that. Like, were you thinking like, I have to nail this or were you just like, this is the way I would react?
I wasn't thinking about it, but as I start to like write a little more, I'm trying to learn more about story structure, and I'm like, oh, that'd be great as an actor to like really think about like the catalyst.
Yeah.
Like when you're performing that moment to really understand narratively how it's connected to the rest of the story. I'm like really bad with plot. I'm really bad with story structure, really bad with script analysis. My brain just doesn't work that way. So like, even when you were just saying that's the catalyst, I was like in my head, like, oh yeah, that is the catalyst. So yeah, I think it would be cool to learn and apply that shit more.
Yeah.
Because I think it would help.
I think we as Americans have a little bit of a blind spot about what's going on in Canada.
Yeah.
And it's a double blind when it's the Canadian indie scene.
We're little guys over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it also true that you all have a blind spot about what's going on here, or do you think you have more of an idea than we do about what's going on there?
I think we definitely look up to you guys. Yeah, like we definitely look up to you guys. We probably try to mimic you in certain ways, but the big difference, like an independent film, at least because now I kind of have a foot in both, the big difference I notice with independent film in Canada is it's government funded. So like me and all of my friends, for the most part, have received large amounts of money from the government to make independent films, whereas my friends here, it's all through the capitalism and private investment, this kind of thing, like the odd grant. But like Telefilm in Canada, that's what the funding body is called, like they've really sort of spread the seed of this money around to so many people in my community, and so there's all these movies.
It's amazing.
Like that's a big difference that I notice.
See, we should be looking up to you guys.
We
should be jealous of you.
Well, then some people say though that because we have that support, we don't have the same amount of incentive to make the same, like the work maybe isn't as competitive in its content as it is here.
What do you think to that though?
Oof.
That can't be true.
I definitely don't think it's like a rule.
Yeah.
I think there's something to the American system where you have to be really good to get money.
But you also have to be formulaic, though.
I guess that, yeah. So it's totally a double-edged sword because, yeah, you're free. Maybe you're freer as an artist in Canada if you get this funding.
Yeah.
And maybe you're more like tied to your financiers here and their opinions and this and that. So,
exactly.
Yeah, I guess.
You have to make it more commercial.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, with somebody like me, I'd be like, I want to just see what people got up their sleeves that they wouldn't be able to like
come to Canada.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Come on down or up.
Yeah. I mean, it just would make it like when you sit down and you're going to write your next thing, you don't have to think, I gotta have some investor. I gotta please some investor, right?
Not yet.
Yeah.
So like as the budgets get bigger in Canada, from what I understand, you start to often pad it from with American companies. And even in the last movie I directed, it's like 75% Canadian telephone money and then 25% American production company. So it does start. So it has sort of started working with an awesome American production company. So they're very supportive and like super like just like into the idea. But maybe as you get into the bigger budgets, even in Canada, then you have to pad with more from the States or co-productions like in Germany or elsewhere or whatever. So maybe then it changes. I feel like to get the bigger budgets in Canada, you need to start to put a name, like attach a bigger actor.
Yeah.
That seems to become an issue for directors as you go up. You kind of need to attach people that are worth something in the American marketplace as decided by distributures.
Right.
So there's still little strategy binds and stuff.
Right. And what about audiences? Have you noticed a difference in the audience in these two countries?
It's so hard because for me, it's like a real looking, like it's just like everyone feels like cooler here. So I think, I think the only difference I notice is just feeling more intimidated in an American audience. But that's probably just my like Canadianism kind of shining through.
Right, or just being it's literally a foreign.
Yeah, it's
place.
literally a different place.
Yeah.
That has like a bigger history of cinema.
Right. But this is not your first rodeo, right? Coming around.
Done a couple. Yeah.
You haven't. This is not your first time crossing the border. So after you nail this mommy issue bounty hunter,
hopefully pray for me.
Right, and this role in Booger, which I already know, it should get you some accolades. So let's just say that it's a 1-2 punch here with these two things, and that affords you some kind of situation where people are saying, "Oh, what's she going to do next?" What ideally do you answer with?
Well, the thing that's top of mind is like I'm writing this script called The Glob. So I would love to just make that movie. That's sort of my next goal.
I love the title.
The Glob.
I have a lot of things that are coming up with me.
Yep.
For me with that title.
It's a good title, right?
Yes.
Body fluids.
Yes.
So yeah,
I'm not as big of a fan of body fluids as you are, but
I don't know what is
I
there
will watch
something
it.
about the glob, like just like I loved the blob.
The blob,
obviously, like some like just that texture I find so funny. But I've really fallen in love. I did pickup days for a film I directed last week, and on it I worked with this amazing prosthetic artist. And I'm just like obsessed with prosthetics right now. So I'd love to just make like a super prosthetic heavy movie
Yes.
at a bigger budget level,
Yes.
get some cool actors in there. So that's like an act in it myself. So that's the next goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grace Glowicki, thank you so much.
That was such a joy. Thanks for the chat.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.